Hi, my name is Andrea Brown, and for my traditional storytelling project, I will be sharing a Nigerian folktale entitled The King's Magic Drum. Ephraim Duke was an ancient king of Calabar. He was a peaceful man and he despised war. He had a wonderful drum, and every time you beat the drum, it always provided plenty of food and drink. So whenever any country declared war against him, he used to call all of his enemies together and beat his drum. Then, to everyone's surprise, instead of fighting, people found tables spread with all sorts of wonderful dishes like fish, fufu, palm oil chop, soup, cooked yams, and okras, and plenty of palm wine for everyone. In this way, he kept the country quiet and sent his enemies away with full stomachs and in happy, content frames of mind. There was one drawback, however, to this wonderful drum. If the owner of the drum walked over any stick or stepped over any fallen tree in the road, all the food would immediately go bad, and 300 Igbo men would appear with sticks and whips and beat the owner of the drum and all the invited guests very severely. Ephraim Duke was a rich man. He had farms and hundreds of servants, a large storehouse of kernels on the beach, and much palm oil. He had 50 wives and many children, which was good for the king's house. Every few months, the king used to issue invitations to all of his subjects to come and join in on his big feast. Even the wild animals would get a chance to be invited. The elephants, the hippos, the leopards, the bush cows, and the antelopes used to come in, for in those days and times, there were no trouble from the animals. They were all friendly with man, and they were friendly with each other whenever there was a big feast. All the people and the animals were very envious of the king's drum and wanted to possess it, but the king would not part with it. One morning, Ikor Edom, one of the king's wives, was bathing her little daughter down at the spring, and the tortoise happened to be up a palm tree, gathering food just over the spring, cutting nuts for his midday meal. And while he was cutting, one of the nuts fell to the ground just in front of the child. The little girl saw the palm nut fall to the ground and called for her mother to get it for her. So her mother reached for the palm nut and gave it to the child, and the child ate it. Then the tortoise, who was very much wanted the king's drum, thought that he would make plenty of fuss over this particular incident and forced the king to give up the magic drum. So he said to the mother of the child, I'm a poor man, and I climbed this tree to get food for me and my family, and then you took the palm nut that I cut down and gave it to your child. I shall tell the whole matter to the king and see what he has to say about this when he hears about it, that his wife has stolen my food. For everyone knows that this is a very serious crime according to native custom. To which the king's wife replied to the tortoise, I saw your palm nut lying on the ground. My child asked for it, and I gave it to my little girl. I did not steal it. My husband is a very rich man, so if you have a complaint to make against me or my child, I will take you before him. So when she had finished bathing her little daughter at the spring, she took the tortoise to her husband and told him what had taken place. The king then asked the tortoise what he would accept for compensation of his loss, and offered him money, cloth, kernels, or palm oil, all of which the tortoise refused one after the other. The king said to the tortoise, well, what will you take? You may have anything you like. And the tortoise immediately pointed to the king's drum and said that that was the only thing that he wanted. So in order to get rid of the tortoise, the king said, okay, very well, you can have the drum. But he never told the tortoise about the bad things that would happen to him if he stepped over a fallen tree or over a stick in the road. The tortoise was very glad at this and carried the drum home in triumph to his wife. and said, "Now I'm a rich man. I shall do no more work. Whenever I want food, all I have to do is beat this drum, and food will immediately be brought to me with plenty to drink." His wife and his children were very pleased and asked Tortoise to get them food at once, and they were all hungry at the time. So Tortoise immediately beat the drum because he was ready to show off his newly acquired wealth, and he was rather hungry himself. So he beat the drum the same way he saw the king beat the drum when the king wanted something to eat. And immediately plenty of food appeared, so they all sat down to a great feast. The tortoise did this for 3 days, and everything went wonderfully. They had plenty of food, his children all got fat, and they had as much food as they could possibly want to eat. He was therefore so proud of his drum that in order to display his riches to everyone in the kingdom, he sent out invitations to the king and all the people and animals to come to a feast that he was hosting. When the people received their invitations, they laughed because they knew that the tortoise was a poor man. And they didn't expect very much to happen out of the invitation to this feast. So very few people showed up at the feast. But the king, knowing about the drum, actually did show up. And when the tortoise beat the drum again, just like it happened before, there was a great profusion, and all of the people sat down and enjoyed their meal very, very much. They were so astonished that the poor tortoise was able to entertain so many people that they told all of their friends about all the wonderful dishes and all of the wonderful food that they had eaten, and that they had never had a better dinner in their life. Well, the people that had not gone were then feeling really sorry that they did not get a chance to go to the feast, because not every day there's a chance to eat at somebody else's expense. So after the feast, all the people looked on this tortoise as the richest man in the kingdom, and they decided that they would never refuse another invitation of his ever again. But the only person who knew what was really happening and understood the power of the drum was the king. When the tortoise had been in possession of the drum for a few more weeks, he became really lazy. He didn't do any work at all, but just went around the country boasting about his riches and drinking too much. One day, when he had a lot of palm wine from a distant farm, he started carrying the drum home with him, but he had had too much to drink, and he didn't notice that he had stepped over a stick in the road on his pathway home. Since nothing happened immediately, he didn't think anything of it. However, the next day, whenever his family was hungry for breakfast, he beat the drum like he had done before. But instead of his house being filled with food, his house was filled with Igbo men, and they beat the tortoise and his wife and children very badly. At this, the tortoise was very angry and said to himself, "Wait a minute. I asked everyone to a feast, but only a few came, and I had given plenty to eat and drink, and now I want food for myself and my family, and I get beaten by Igbo men? I think that other people should share in the same fate as me. I don't see why my family should be beaten when I have been so generous to give this feast to all the people." So therefore he sent out a second invitation to another feast. And this time all of the men and animals came to the big dinner the next day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When the people arrived, they did not expect that something terrible would happen when they beat the drum. But whenever the tortoise beat the drum the second time, 300 Igbo men came and beat the guests severely for about 2 hours. And the only person or the only animal that was able to escape was the leopard. Well, from this incident, the people made such a fuss over what happened that the tortoise decided that he was going to return the drum to the king, that he wasn't going to put up with this anymore. So he went to the king the next day, And when he went to the king the next day, he pleaded with the king and told him that he would exchange the drum for anything else. It didn't matter what it was, just as long as he got the full value for the drum. And he was willing to accept a number of servants or a few farms or any other thing that was equivalent, either in cloth or rods. The king, however, refused to do this for him, but he did feel sorry for the tortoise. So he said that he would present him with a magic fufu tree, which would provide the tortoise and his family food, provided that he kept the certain condition. This, the tortoise gladly accepted and was content. Thank you for listening.